highest sales month. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Jasmine. For those who are new, I am a full-time nurse working in Ontario, Canada, but I also like to resell clothing and other accessories on eBay as well as the US and Canadian Poshmark app. For today's video, I wanted to do an overview of my sales for the month of May for both the Canadian and US Poshmark app. If you like reselling content like this, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. So my total sales on the US Poshmark account was $3,094. On my Canadian Poshmark account, I had a total of $1,369 in sales. This gives a total of $4,463. My average sales price on the US account was around $37 and my average sale price on the Canadian account was $57. I had a lot more sales on the US account, so I think it kind of evens out a little bit more. On my Canadian platform, I had a few outliers that probably increased my sales price, so that's why there's such a big difference. So my first sale on my US account were these mint green high top Converse shoes. I did buy them from Retail Arbitrage and they sold for $60. My next sale was this Lululemon scuba hoodie and it sold for $40. It did had a bit of wash wear in the color, so I did include that in the description of my listing, and $40 was pretty reasonable for that. If you didn't see my first Retail Arbitrage haul, I showed a lot of Gymshark pieces, and since then they've all sold. I sold this one for $36 and I sold another one for $31. My next sale was this ModCloth romper and it sold for $16. My profit wasn't that high, but it sat in my closet for a really long time, so I'm glad to see it go to a new home. If you haven't seen my other What Sold videos, I've sold a couple of these shoes. They are the white Converse Ballet slip-on sneakers, and I sold one for $48 and another one for $40. I think I only have one more left in my closet at the moment, but I keep repurchasing it because I know that they will sell and they'll sell for a pretty consistent price. Next, I sold this Free People bralette. I had already sold my lipstick color and this time I sold the one in purple. Next, I sold these men's black Salomon shorts. They were brand new with tags and they sold for $17. Salomon's a pretty expensive brand. I think it's related to Arc'teryx, but between the two, Arc'teryx does a lot better than Salomon. Next, I sold this pair of Adidas Swift Runs. They're in this red color. It's funny because when I first started reselling, I had purchased a ton of shoes with my husband. We bought like thousands of dollars worth of shoes. And since then, our profit margin for those shoes has been more than 50%. So these pairs of shoes was just one of the last lingering pieces because I hadn't listed it, and they sold for $47. Next, I sold these Bogs Kids rain boots. They sold for $25. They were brand new in the box. Next, I sold this TNA Maverick jacket in black. It was in a pretty good condition and sold for $40. I sold a couple of these jackets in the same style, so I knew that it was a good pickup, and it's a pretty consistent sell. Next, I sold this Fila dress. It sold for $50. I think originally my asking price was too high because I had listed it for maybe around $75, but I was glad to see it go for $50. Next, I sold this Lululemon sweater. I had it listed for $35. It did have a couple of stains which weren't really noticeable, but I did include that all in the listing, and I received an offer for $32, I think within like 10 to 15 minutes of me listing it. So I was really happy to see it sell for that high. I was originally thinking of doing a mystery box of kind of flawed Lululemon pieces. I was going to do like maybe 4 pieces for like $20 to $25. But since then, I just decided to list them all, and they've sold for more than what I would have made in the mystery box. This was another Lululemon piece that I was going to include in the mystery box. It's a Lululemon shape-up jacket. The reason why I was going to include it was because it had a little bit more pilling and wear than I was comfortable with selling. It still sold for $20. Next, I sold these pair of Puma running shoes, and they sold for $55. Next, I sold this Lululemon Deep V tank, and it sold for $10. It did have a pen stain on it, so this was also what I was going to include in the mystery box, but $10 was half of what I was going to sell the mystery box for, so I was more than happy with that. Next, I sold these Lululemon Groove pants. They're wide leg, and they still sold for $60. A lot of people say that the older style and like flare legs don't sell that well, but I've still been selling it for like between $40 to $60. So I would still pick them up if they're in good condition. Next, I sold these pair of low top Vans, and they sold for $43. Next, I sold these New Balance sneakers, and they sold for a full asking price of $65. Next, I sold another Lululemon piece, and this sold for $50. My next sale was this Lily Pulitzer skirt, and it sold for $32. Next, I sold these Lululemon Quick Step pants, and they sold for $45. Next, I sold these Lover and Friends jeans for $70. They were new with tags, and it was my first time picking up Lovers and Friends, but they sold, again, like maybe 5 minutes of me listing it, so it was a pretty fast sell. Next, I sold another pair of these Converse ballet shoes, but these I actually picked up from the thrift store, so they weren't brand new, but they were in pretty good condition. They just had like some sand in it, so I just had to give them a good clean, and they sold for $30. Next, I sold these Adidas Campus sneakers, and they sold for $50. I still have a couple of Adidas shoes like Campus, Stitch and Turn, and stuff like that in a variety of sizes, but they all consistently sell between $50 and $65. I sold this Lululemon paddle suit, and I did pick this up from Lululemon store, and it sold for $85. My next sale was this TNA from Sea to Sky sweater, and it sold for $60. This sweater is pretty popular. I've sold a couple of them already. They do sell for at least $40, I'd say, as long as there's not a lot of pilling, or the pilling can be removed with a shaver. Just because of the lamb's wool, I think it's pretty sought after. So if you see one of these for a good price, I would pick it up. Next, I sold another Lululemon piece. This was a Sunsetter jogger. I did pick this up from a Lululemon store, and they sold for $60. This next Lululemon piece is a more vintage style. It's called the Whisper Tank, and it sold for $20, which was pretty reasonable for an older style Lululemon piece. Next, I sold these pair of Citizens of Humanity jeans, and they sold for $30, which I was more than happy with. I have a couple of Citizens of Humanity jeans. When I first started reselling, I picked up a lot because, like, oh, this is a good brand, like this is going to sell really well, but that's not the case. So $30 is pretty reasonable. Next, I sold this Desugio blazer, and it sold for $30. I think my listing price was too high because I knew that this brand had a following, but I had never sold anything by this brand before. But it sold for $30, which I was happy with. Next, I sold this Aritzia Wilfred Camille blazer, and it sold for $70. It was in almost like new condition, so I'm glad it went to another home. Next, I sold this Athleta rain jacket. It was funny because I originally sold it for, I think, $40 or $45, and when I was packaging the item, I noticed a stain, which I don't know how I missed it the first time, so I just messaged the buyer and I canceled her order, and I had relisted it with a picture of the stain, and the buyer had contacted me again and said that she still wanted to buy it, so she just purchased it for a cheaper price. Next, I sold this Forever 21 jean jacket, and it was my husband's, who never wore it, so I sold it for $20. I listed it as like a women's small, like for a boyfriend fit, and she really liked it, and she left a good comment saying that it fit perfectly. Next, I sold this Lululemon Voyage hoodie. So this one had a lot of flaws too. Like, it had one small pull on the bottom, and like the armpits were stained like a different color. So this was one of the items I would have also included in my mystery box, but it sold for $32 still, so I was glad to see it go for that. Next, I sold this Lacoste jacket for $60. This was also my husband's. Back in his like younger days, he really liked to dress really preppy, and Lacoste was his favorite store. He only wore this jacket a couple times, but he never wears it anymore. So I sold it, and it went to a good home. So I picked up a lot of Crocs, and now they're all gone, but they sold between like $17 to $25. So I sold like this blue pair, this pink pair, and this Superman one, and also this Avengers one. Next, I sold these Lululemon Ice Queen pants, and they sold for $65. They were in almost new condition, so I thought they would do a little bit better. It took a while to sell, but it still sold for a full asking price of $65. Next, I had this bundle. It was this Tallulah debutante dress, as well as this like vintage Aritzia like button-up dress, and it sold for $45, which I was happy with. Next, I sold these 7fam Georgia flare jeans, and they sold for $22. Again, when I first started reselling, I picked up a lot of 7 for All Mankind jeans because I looked at the brand and thought that I could flip it for really high, but that's obviously not the case, so I was glad to see it go for $22. Next, another fast flip were these North Face shorts. They were brand new with tags. I had it originally listed for maybe around $26 or $27. Someone had liked the item. I sent an offer for $22 and she accepted it. So it sold the same day, like within the hour of me listing it. Next sale were these Rebecca Minkoff leggings. These were from my personal closet that I never wore, so they're still brand new with tags, and they sold for $45. Next, I sold these Zara jeans, and they sold for $25, and they were new with tags. Next, I sold these Tory Burch pants for $30. I did have another pair, like a more turquoise color, which also sold this month, but I don't think I'll pick up Tory Burch pants anymore because they did sit for a really long time, and I didn't sell them for that much. I think the other one sold for around $30 as well. Next, I sold these Lululemon Carefree crops, and they sold for $40. Crops usually don't sell for that high, but I think because it was a larger size, it was a size 12, that they still sold for $40. Next, I sold these Madewell jeans. They sold for $50. They were in pretty good condition. They were in like a popular style, so $50 was a great sale. Next, I sold these Lululemon crops. They were the Gather and Crow crops, and they also sold for $40 like my other crops. Next, I sold this Aritzia Babaton Flutter jumpsuit. This sold for $87. I had it listed for maybe $100. I did pick this up from Facebook Marketplace, and I was able to flip it for $87. Next, I sold these Vince pants. They only sold for $29. I don't think I'm going to pick up any more Vince pants because this sat in my closet for a really long time. Next, I sold this bundle. It was a bundle of this TNA parka as well as the Tory Burch pants that I mentioned before, and it sold for a total of $110. Next, I sold these girlfriend jeans. If you didn't see my latest retail arbitrage haul, I did pick up a lot of girlfriend jeans, and it was because of this sale, because I sold these for $140, so I'm pretty confident that I can sell it for around that much for each of them as well. Next, I sold this Burton sweater, and it sold for a full asking price of $55. Next, I sold another pair of Madewell jeans. These were the Rail Straight jeans. They were an older Madewell style, just based on the tag, but it still sold for $40. Next, I sold these Roots boots, and they sold for full asking price of $75. Next, I sold these Pilcrona letterpress jeans, and they were sold for $43. My next sale were these Free People cadet joggers, and they sold for $65. Again, this was from my first retail arbitrage haul that I did show, so I was glad to see them sell for $65. So that concludes today's video. If you haven't seen my tips and tricks of making sales on Poshmark video, I'll link it above. But basically that's all I did, and it has increased my sales like almost double from the month of April compared to May. And also I think people were just buying a lot in the month of May just because of the pandemic and maybe stores not being open. I do suspect that my sales will go down for the month of June just based on my sales currently for basically half of the month so far. But I'll still just continue to send offers and make bundles for people, and hopefully my sales will be not too bad. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!